How are you today? My name is Jen Rzasa. I am one of the co-founders of Altenew, and I'm delighted to be here with another live. So this is Creative Challenges with Jen, and every single Tuesday, we're going to have a new challenge prompt, something that will hopefully get you out of your creative comfort zone, maybe even get you out of a rut if you've been struggling to create, hopefully help you find time to get into your creative space, because we all know that things are busy and life often gets in the way, and sometimes our hobbies are the first things to get sacrificed. So hobbies are important. Making time for yourself is important. And if you create with friends, using that to bond over one another is also important. So I know that personally, I'm thankful for this time that I spend with you guys, because as someone who designs products for Altenew on the behind the scenes side of things, I'm most frequently working and creating on a computer, doing designs digitally illustrated, and then going to miss out on a lot of the hands-on stuff is really sad. So I get an opportunity every week, at least once, to create with my hands, and I love it. And I hope you guys do the same. Sorry, I'm a few minutes late. I was forgetting that I wanted to try out some watercolors today, and I did not get water. How am I going to do watercolors without water? So as I was about to set the live stream to go, I was like, water. I have a spray bottle. Can I get away with just a spray bottle? I'm like, no, I need a cup full of water. So I ran downstairs. I don't have any sinks up here. I am jealous of anyone who has running water in their crafting area, whether you craft in the kitchen or if you have a craft room that happens to have a sink in it or a bathroom attached or something. Super jealous, because I had to run all the way downstairs across the apartment to the bathroom, get the water, and come back. So sorry for being a little bit late. Last week, while I'm doing apologies, last week my son was sick and I unfortunately had to cancel that live. He has been so sick. I know that going to daycare, it's inevitable. And I just feel so bad for the poor kid, because, he was out of school and he seemed miserable. And, we did our best to take care of him and keep him comfortable. And thankfully, he's feeling a lot better now. I missed a lot of your questions and comments maybe that you popped in during those few minutes you guys were waiting. So I will definitely have to go back later and catch up. But if you are here, and especially if you're new here, pop in the chat, say hello, let us know that you're here. If you want, it's even better if you share our live stream while we're live, and then let us know you did that, because if you do, you are entered to win a $15 gift certificate to the Altenew store, and that will be announced at the end of the live stream. So within the hour, you'll know if you are a winner. And the other way to win is by playing along using our hashtag Altenew Challenge Live. So let me first go ahead and show you what I created last week. So the challenge was white out. As a white space lover myself, this was really difficult, but I'm really happy with what I created and how it came out. I used a marker to do the background. And if you were in the live stream last time, you'll know I was using a marker that was in desperate need of re-inking. And a lot of the marks that I made before I re-inked are a little bit splotchy. And then I re-inked it, and I did, I forget which corner it was, but one of the bottom corners. And it was so smooth and perfect. I was like, oh, this is how it should be going. So just be careful if you do have a splotchy marker, or you have a marker that's in need of being re-inked. Re-ink it before you go ahead and color a large area, because it was just kind of making things a little bit harder to get a smooth result. And one of the great things about using alcohol markers, like our artist markers, is that they do blend so seamlessly and beautifully. So you want to make sure that your marker is juicy for that. If your marker is ever running out, just pop on over and get one of our re-inkers. And fun fact, the re-inkers can also just be used as alcohol ink. I'm looking over to the side. I don't know if my son wants to be on. I'm getting a coffee run today. Mama. Yeah, you want to see what Mama's doing? Yeah? Okay. So this is Logan. Do you see yourself? Yeah. So Mama's filming. I'm going to do crafts. What do you think? I was talking about you. I'm so happy that you're feeling better. Mwah. All right. Why don't you go back to Dada? Thank you guys for the coffee.
Of course. Come here, buddy. Good boy.
And I lost my train of thought, but oh yeah, thank you, Dave. My husband's like, alcohol ink. Yeah, alcohol ink. So if you get the reinkers, you reink your marker, you get a nice smooth experience, and you get a chance to use it as an alcohol ink. So it's a double duty. I love when products can be used for more than one thing. I know I'm like going on so many tangents right now, but we had a friend come over the weekend, and he's into like crafting stuff right now. He's doing like a lot of leather crafts and, you know, hand stitching and cutting leather. And he looked at the craft room. He's like, wait, are these all alcohol inks? Why, yes, they are. And he was just so impressed that I have all these colors of alcohol inks, and I can see like the gears turning in his head. I don't know if there's techniques with leather and alcohol inks, or he also does a lot of paintings of like little figures, like scale down figures. I don't know exactly what it's called, but he does a lot of that. So maybe the brain was going for that, but he's like, if I need to borrow those, I know where to go. And I'm like, yep, you can borrow them anytime. So beyond just paper crafts, there are uses for those alcohol inks. So just a little plug there for you. All right. So hello, Nancy. Hello, Sue. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Sue saying she sees that there's tags. I thought of you the moment. I'm like, the only person that I know who does a tag every week for the challenge with other projects, including cards too, is Sue. You're always making the most amazing tags. So I know you're going to like knock it out of the park, this one. But let me do a few other hellos. I know I've missed a whole bunch of people, but Karen and Kathy, Liz is here. Kim is here. Sue, of course, is here. Miss Tamp is here. Amy is here. Carrie, Joanne, many, many more. Oh, I know. Look at his smile, right? My little guy's got a cute, cute smile. He wasn't smiling much last week. I don't even want to talk about what he had. I could mention it, but he had hand, foot, mouth. If you guys know anything about that, his poor mouth was like covered in sores. And I am such a baby. If I get like one sore in my mouth, I'm like, oh, I can't eat. Oh, I have to chew on the other side. Oh, I bit it. It was all in his mouth and down his throat. Like, yeah, he was miserable. I felt so bad. So I'm glad he's doing a lot better. Yeah, I have, Liz. I've enabled another crafter for sure. Love enabling, right? It's a good thing. And Brenda, hello to you too. So yeah, anybody else who wants to share, just do it anytime while we're live today and pop that in the comments that you did, so you have an opportunity to win there. All right, so back to what I created. As I was talking about the markers, but it was no white. So that's the whiteout challenge. I know it looks a little white here. I promise that is light, 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 light purple. I did stenciling on the background, and then I did the black marker. And then I added a glitter greeting. This is from the Outlined Hello die set. And then I used vellum behind it. But since vellum is white, I colored it with one of our markers. I colored it with Silverstone. So I used the Silverstone marker and I colored on that vellum just to give it a tint that wasn't white because I didn't want to break the rules. And then I used that vellum to kind of mute out behind the greeting, but still able to see through it to see all that ink blending. So that's what I made. Now let's jump in and see what the winner made. As always, it takes me a little time to do my screen share. And then you guys can do a little drum roll while you wait. And the winner is Carrie. So congratulations to Carrie. I loved all of the submissions. Without white, I felt very inspired personally, again, as somebody who defaults to white for backgrounds, for sentiment strips, for sentiments themselves, like die cuts. I use white all the time. it was really refreshing to me to see so many projects that didn't have any white. So I thought this was really fun, perfect for springtime, perfect, bright, punchy colors. I loved how sweet it is, obviously, literally and figuratively, because we have the sweet sentiment on there, but it's just kind of like a sweet card in general. So congratulations to Carrie. Make sure you reach out to us and let us know that you're the winner of this challenge, and we will get that $15 gift certificate out to you for that. So remember, anytime you choose to play along, just to do the hashtag. Our hashtag is #Altenew Challenge Live, and make sure it's posted either publicly if you have a public social media account, or if you're in our Facebook fan group, you can also post it there. That's where most participants post, but I do always find things elsewhere, like on personal Facebook pages or on Instagram. So I will find it if you're using the hashtag, but most people do choose to upload to the Facebook fan group. If you're not a part of that, here's a recommendation. Go join it. It's great. I love it. I talk about it every week. I won't talk about it again. You guys have heard me say my spiel of why I love the group so much. So then that's going to bring us to today's challenge. So today's challenge is Tag Your It, inspired by the game of tag, but also tags. I do not create tags often, and I feel like anytime I make something that's not a card, it's both frightening but liberating. I hope you can kind of understand where I'm coming from there. If you feel the same way with certain projects, it's like, I've got all these supplies. I don't have to just make cards. I could make tags. But then I'm also like, but then what am I going to do with the tags? Am I giving out gifts? Am I tying tags on the gifts? Sue, you need to tell us what you do with all of these tags that you create, because you make so many tags. Like, are you giving away that many presents and tying tags on them? Are you putting tags onto cards or in scrapbooks? Are you making bookmarks out of your tags? What are you doing? Because like, I just don't know what I would do with a whole bunch of tags, but that's the plan. We're making tags today. All right, let me just pop you down. I'll show you guys what I pulled out, and we are going to get this thing moving. Okay, switching the camera. Okay, let me just scoot aside what I just shared from my marker and the die set that I used last week. We don't need that today. And I did give you a little tip off that I wanted to try watercoloring. Now, we recently released these watercolor sets. So these are really fun and perfect for like travel. They're a collaboration with the Mint Gardener. And these colors have all been tested, obviously, for quality, but also carefully chosen and selected into these different color palettes because of how beautifully they work together. Sue is saying sometimes she just sends them like you would send a card. That's a great idea. Do you just put it in an envelope? I know it sounds like I have no idea how this works, but yeah, I don't have any idea how this works, sending a tag. And Scrapping Netta is her first live. Hello, welcome. And she loves that it is watercoloring. So I'm going to be doing some watercoloring on die cuts today. I was kind of formulating this idea right before the live started, as I do, right? I do all my planning last minute or not at all. Very often we have lives that have zero plan other than the challenge theme, and you guys then get to hear my inside thoughts, my thought process as I'm creating, and then you get to help me choose things along the way. So I might be asking you for advice if I can't make decisions on my own. And I grabbed the Ornate Tag die set because these are so pretty and so intricate. I love that we have two sizes. So I'm thinking I'm going to do the larger tag and then incorporate some of these flowers. So this is the Morning Grace layering die set, and it's super easy die set. This one is very like painterly, very like, I don't know, imprecise. I don't want to say it's like abstract or impressionistic because it's not. It is fully formed flowers, right? But it just has a very loose painterly feel. So I thought this might be a really cool thing to combine with one of the watercolor sets. So I grabbed that. I did also get water that I remembered at the last minute, which is why I arrived late. I also got a set of brushes. So this is the set of round brushes. I also have our fine watercolor brushes that are like this size, but I'm thinking I just want the larger brushes just to add more color at a time. So it doesn't, I don't want to be precise here. I'm not going to be painting details on these. It's going to be very, very loose watercoloring. And when you're watercoloring on die cuts, there are two ways that you can go about it. First way is you can get your watercolor paper, watercolor on this first, let it dry, and then die cut your elements. And if you do that, you have less control over where colors go. Oh my gosh, maybe we should do both. I was going to do it the other way. So option 2 is you die cut first and then add watercolor to the die cuts and then let them dry and assemble. So 2 ways. My plan was to cut first and then watercolor, but let's just do both. We've got plenty of paper. So let's do it. Okay, so I'm grabbing some cold pressed watercolor paper. This paper is a go-to. Love that it's already cut in A2 sheets. Just don't even have to think about it. Perfect if you're making a card panel out of it. For those of us who do create A2 cards, it's sized perfectly. In this case, I am going to be die cutting them out, and I will be using my mini blossom, which measures 3 by 6. So I will just have to trim this down before I send it through the die cut machine. But even with that, it's still so much more manageable to have a smaller piece of cardstock instead of always taking like a 9 by 12. I mean, say not cardstock, watercolor paper, instead of taking a 9 by 12 and trimming it down. So I love having these pre-cut sheets. We do have other sizes too that you can always check out. And I'm also going to get started on my coffee. So I have to have something warm to drink, right? All right, so let's do the first way. And I'm going to get a big old brush for that one. Okay, so this is 18. And I want to take this because I'm going to put down lots and lots of color at once. And I think I'm just going to stick to the Moody Brights palette. And I'm just going to set these aside. There, like I said, there's lots of different options here, but I think for the sake of the live, it's easier just to stick with one. So I open up the palette, you see these nice pan sizes. We also have an area for mixing, so you can mix your colors right there on the white. And then on the back, we have some information about the palette and then some inspiration. So this says a bold selection of 6 watercolor pans featuring saturated brights and moody tones across red, violet, yellow, blue, and green, ideal for mixing, layering, and building atmospheric depth. So I'll open that up. And the first thing I want to do, let's see if I could get this so you could see better. I don't need this out right now. Okay, so let's just get this background wet first. So I'm just going to take this large brush and just brush a bunch of water. You might see it start to warp or lift. There's a few things you could do to prevent that. You could saturate this whole paper and press it down, and it will prevent it from doing some warping. You can also tape it down to your surface. I'm not worried about it because I'm going to be die cutting these out anyway. And I know as it dries, it's going to flatten out a bit. So now I'm just going to select some colors and just be like really loose with where they go. Okay, so that's almost looks like a flower right there. I am not even really thinking about the size of the dies, although that is helpful if you want to consider the size of the dies. But right now, I'm just trying to get areas that have darker color and areas that have lighter color. I am really not being careful to avoid cross-contamination. I want there to be a pretty blend. And I will go back and layer more on top. So that's some nice bright yellow. And I'm thinking just layering and playing around with my color until I feel satisfied. We'll leave some space for leaves and greens down here. So this way of doing it is like the surprise reveal, like the wait and see. I'm not really going to know how this comes out until it's fully dried. Watercolor evolves as it dries. If you want more saturation, just load up some more color onto your brush, and you can see I get a lot more saturation right there. Another classic move is to flick color onto here. So taking a smaller brush, loading it up with some water, a little bit of paint, and flicking on it for more texture. I think I'm going to add more yellow here. I'm imagining yellow and pink flowers. And then if I let this completely dry, I can go in with another layer and add more colors. I like the areas that are more well blended and the areas that aren't. So here's an area that's more well blended. I don't know why this is showing up quite neon on screen. It's definitely more muted than that. But here you can see these areas have blended together beautifully. I did say I was going to save some space for greens. Let me just resaturate it, starting to dry down here. And this is called wet on wet. The reason why it's called wet on wet is I'm taking wet watercolor and applying it to wet paper. Oh, that's so pretty. Ah, okay, we'll get some green down. Also going to grab a paper towel. It's always good to kind of blot any excess water off. I love watching and seeing what develops too. This looks like two green swans. Are you guys seeing what's in my imagination here? One swan here and then the other swan here, and they're kind of like nuzzling neck to neck. Okay, we'll add some blues. I'm not worried about that. That's just going to add more interest. So I'm just creating a landscape for my die cuts to be cut from. That's all. It's really kind of just developing as I go along. So no plan. It's like, oh, I want some more pink here. I can take water and spray it. So I've got water in here. If I want to reactivate a little area, I could spray it like that. Let's add some splatter. Spatter? Is it spatter or splatter? I know there is a difference. We'll take a smaller brush here. 3. Yay, Liz sees the swans. Laura sees the swans. Thank you, Netta sees the swans. We all see the swans. They're gone now, but they were there briefly for a brief moment in time. Okay, so I'm going to take some of this pink here and bring it over to the mixing zone. And I'm just going to add lots more water to it. Kind of get it all soupy. Twirl my brush so I get lots of paint on it, and then just flicking on. Now, when it's wet, you're going to have bigger speckles because they're getting absorbed into that wet paper. So remember, we talked about wet on wet. So that's going to create diffused speckles. Okay. Now this right here, that's an example of wet on dry. So the paper beneath it had dried, a speckle went on it, and now it's perfectly formed circle. I like having a combination of both. So it's like, we'll do this and then we'll come back and do it again and get more defined speckles. So let me hold this up because once again, my lighting is playing tricks on my colors. There you go. Okay, so the plan here is to cut the flowers from up there, leaves from down here, And I like having the blue in the leaf area. I might add a little bit more yellow just to greenify some of that blue, but I don't want to get rid of it entirely. I like having some cool green involved. We could just place that there and just, yeah, add some of that. So now we have like a little bit of a bright yellowy green to add to the mix. Okay, so let's now allow that to dry a bit while we get some more die cut. So for this, I am just going to cut in half so that I can send this through. I want to make sure it's less than 3 inches. Perfect. Remember, that's the size of the die cut machine. The plate is 3 by 6. And here are my dies. Now, if you look over here, we have just a simple little layering guide. Real easy to put these guys together. So this part is going to be what is seen the most on that flower. And then the background, this part really only is visible like right there. Not the orange, this like tan part in the back, this vanilla cream color. That's what this big die is. So when you do something like this, pick your favorite spots and look at what die you're going to see the most of that color from. And Karen saw the swans too. Love it. We're all seeing swans today. Okay, so these are just the plain white cardstock. I mean, plain white paper, plain white watercolor paper. And if you're just joining us, we are doing a tag your it theme. And all you need to do if you want to join is create a tag. What you do with it is up to you. Do you want to put on a gift? Do you want to put it in an envelope and mail it to somebody? Do you want to just display it somewhere? Do you want to put it in a box and then forget all about it for years? Hint, hint, that's what happens to a lot of the things I create. They get put in a box and I forget them for years. But then it's kind of fun finding them later, isn't it? Okay, this is just some of our satin masking tape getting used to hold down these dies. This tape I just keep using over and over again, these same pieces. I can tell some of them are starting to lose their stick. So this might be the end of the road for these guys. Just put a little extra on. And I'm trying to leave space here in case I want to cut another flower. Yeah, let's do this. Just like that. Yeah, this tape will need to retire. Okay. And I'm going to feel this. Almost ready to add another layer of spatter. I'm just waiting for it to just dry a little bit, teeny bit more. Okay, let's bring out the Mini Blossom die cut machine. Old Faithful. I'm sorry, this is all here. I was scooted over, but it's wet underneath that cardstock, and I don't want to get everything else wet. So we'll just be a little off center for right now. I'm going to place everything onto the die cutting plates, and I will send it through with the shim. Hello, Deb. Nice to see you. Don't worry about being late. You can always catch the replay. Beverly is saying she loves the Altenew satin masking tape. It doesn't tear the cardstock. Yes, I love that too. Always test though, because there are some cardstocks. Every cardstock is made differently, and different manufacturers may have different coatings on the cardstock or different qualities to their cardstock. So I would say always do a little test before you like start taping all over your project. But yeah, I very rarely encounter any papers that this sticks to or tears or rips. So Okay, so remember this plan over here with these die cuts is to, now that they're cut, add color to them individually. So we're just doing two different methods here. Just popping out last little piece. And here are all my dies. I maybe can fit another one. Maybe not. Okay, we'll hold off for now. I was just checking to see if I could fit another die cut here. Let's do the rest of our spatter on this side. And I'm going back into this. It did dry a little bit, so you just add a little bit more water. And now you can see this splatter is a little more properly formed. Okay, it wasn't just melting into the background. It has a little more integrity to it, more structure. And I want to do the same down here with the green. So I'm just going to pick up some of that color, bring it over here. Oh, so gorgeous. Get it nice and wet and do my splatter. Something about adding splatter I just love, because I feel like it just adds another layer of texture and interest. If you ever feel like you got a little too dark, you want to make it less noticeable, just take a piece of paper towel and then you can dab away at it until it's exactly what you want. Okay, I think that's looking cute. So we have a little bit more to go on that before it is fully dry. And now I'd like to start bringing my attention to these die cuts. Okay, so remember what I said before. This is what you're going to see the most of. And if you're not sure, just refer to the layering guide. So when I look at this flower, if I squint, I'm like, it looks pink, right? So then what shape is pink? This shape is pink. So I know whatever I color this shape as is going to be the most prominent color. This one, although it looks the biggest, is set behind everything. So this is the one you see the least of. And then this one's the one you see the second most. So when you're planning your coloring, or if you're not watercoloring, maybe you're just die cutting these from different colored cardstocks, just be aware of those relationships between the pieces so you can color them the way you want. I love pink, obviously. I'm making this pink. I think this background is going to be like maybe some yellowy, but we'll see. I'm not positive. And then, yeah, we can also bring in some of that beautiful, deeper pink. Okay, so let's do this. We'll use the lighter pink for the background right here. And I'm just wetting it just like that. And we're going to do kind of the same process as before, but I want to keep this pretty light, so I'm not putting a lot of paint on it. There is paint there. It's just that one bit of light. Now let me put the die cut in front. Can that help? You guys, every single live, I try to learn from my mistakes and I adjust the light that's coming through the window, and I've closed the blinds, and every single following week, I feel like the lighting needs to be adjusted again. It's because the time, I guess now that spring and the days are getting longer, the amount of light coming into the room is completely varied every single week. Okay, so I'm going to add a little more in different areas, but most of this is going to be covered. So it really doesn't matter. It doesn't even matter the edges. The edges are going to be covered. Okay, so here's what I did for that one. Okay, so we'll let that dry and let's move on to the next piece. Deb says she has the watercolor compact collection on the wish list. Yeah, it really is. It's an investment, right? I don't want to say that, oh, it's so cheap, buy them all. I know it's not, but if you want to take the time and get like one set at a time, that's a really great way to do it so that you're not feeling like you're spending all that money at once. And, you know, it's a collection that you build over time. And watercolor goes a long way. So if you're new to watercolor, you might look at this and say that's not a lot of paint at all. But if you think of how much you dilute it and the fact that you can reuse paint, so like all of this that's on the palette, that will get reused. I will put more water on that later and use it on a project. So it's very minimal, if any, waste, which is another bonus. So this one I want to be darker, and this is going to be visible on top, so I definitely want it to be prettier. So let me just kind of go from the edges in the center. I don't know. I'm getting paint all over my table, all over the alignment mat. I don't really care. Okay, so this part's going to be dark. We're doing shadows and lights. Kind of like how this is just blurring itself out towards the edges a little bit. Take some plain water and help it along. So the paint wants to travel where water is. Let me zoom you in. Oh, wrong way. Let's zoom in. Okay, so if you're new to watercolor, it wants to travel where the water is. So if I have a wet die cut and I put some paint on it, it's going to want to spread on its own without you doing any work. You'll just put it on and it'll start spreading. It may not spread across the whole thing, but it will spread as far as the pigments will allow it to go. If you are painting on a dry die cut, you are much more in control of where that paint goes. And if it is half and half, if it's partially wet, partially dry, then it's kind of a mix of the two. And I find sometimes that like that's the sweet spot where I can control and have more defined lines and brush strokes, but it still blends effortlessly. I want to add some darkness here. I think I'm going to put some blue, just a tad of blue, maybe even some green, just to be a little darkness, like a purplish shadow, just right over here. Perfect. So yeah, I'm just playing more with how this is coming together. I'm going to put a little purple up here. As I mentioned earlier, when I did the background, you can take some water bottle and like spritz the whole thing, which is going to help all the colors move. So it will reactivate some colors that maybe has dried. And then the colors that haven't dried, it's going to really like shift and move them around. Serena saying Altenew has so many different watercolor products. We do. All right, I will go through my faves. Right now, these are a fave just because they're fun and new and easy to travel with. I'm already thinking about when I go on vacation over the summer to the Jersey Shore with my in-laws. I want to bring these just because it's easy to bring around. Next favorite are the watercolor brush markers. Okay, those are so vibrant, so beautifully pigmented. If you haven't used them, try them or buy the refills. So the watercolor brush marker refills. And those are just little pigmented liquid watercolors. I love those. Hands down, love them, love them. And then I would say my third favorite is the metallic watercolor set, just because it's so fun and different, and there's a lot that you can do with it. The center of this flower, I think we're going to go traditional with some like yellowy colors. Now here, this is so small. I'm not going to worry about doing wet on wet. Remember, wet on wet helps things spread and blend. This, I'm just going to get some wet paint and go right on it dry. And just allow the water that's already on my brush and in the paint to move things along. It's just so small. There's really nothing more to it than that. I think I'm going to add a little bit of pink just to make it a slightly more orange, give it a little more interest, something like that. That looks cute. And then we have these little leaves that I need to do something with. And then right over here, this little bud. So this part up top, I will paint. I don't need to paint the bottom because this part just gets layered right on top. So it doesn't matter what color that is. So I really love this dark area of the pinks and purples. Oh, Polly's asking, what's the challenge? So the challenge is tag your it, and you need to create tags. The flowers that I'm making now will eventually get placed onto one of these tags to create my tags. This is the Ornate Tags die set. We do have a few other tag die sets in the shop that you could use for this, but you also could just take a piece of cardstock and cut it into a rectangle. Make that a tag, you punch a hole, or you can bevel the corners or make the tag look like the little ribbon ends, like the ones that are cut like this at the bottom. If you're doing a sentiment strip and you want to cut that banner end, you can make a tag that looks like that. You can find a large die cut shape. Maybe you have nesting shape dies and you want to use one of those to create a tag. And then again, you punch a hole in something to tie ribbon through and it's a tag. It doesn't have to be traditionally tag shaped. So there are a lot of things that you guys could do for this one. And you don't have to just submit the tag. So if you make the tag and then choose to put it on something else, you could take a picture of that and that could be your entry. So if you want to put the tag onto a card or onto a gift or something else. I'm going to leave part of this white. Sometimes the easiest way to add highlights is just to leave something white. And then a little bit of that purpley color that we blended up before. Here, I know I'm so zoomed in, you can't really see what I'm mixing. So this was the purplish color that I had added around to be kind of extra shading and extra color. We'll do a little bit more, grab some of that blue. And you could see here how it just reactivates any dry pigment. Just get a wet brush and that'll bring that back to life. A little bit here. Oh, I lost some of my highlight. Let's wipe that off. Again, the paper towel you can use to wipe that off. This is almost dry, so we'll be able to cut from here. We'll see the difference between these two approaches. Okay, let's do a little cleanup because I think I'm done with my pinks, and then we'll jump into the greens for the greenery. Oh, the other thing I love about watercolor is it's super easy to clean up. I typically wouldn't just watercolor right on this surface, but you can. It's just easier for the live to have one surface that I do all my crafting on. But yeah, for sure, you can do whatever you want. All right, here are my leaves. And let's get out same brush, same paints, same everything, and start brushing this on. So let's think back about our discussion from the beginning, right? I said there's two techniques that you could use to do painted die cuts. You can either die cut first, or you could paint first and then die cut second. And my original plan was to do this, die cut first and paint second, because I wanted to have that control over where each color goes. But it's certainly taking me more time. If you think about it, I made that whole background before in probably 5 minutes. This, I'm taking a lot more time on each part, but it's allowing me to be a lot more precise with my colors. I love adding blues to the greenery. Something about that cool hit of the blue mixing with the greens and then the yellows. So nice. And I want to add a little bit of deepness and richness here. So I'm actually going to take some pink You may think I'm crazy, but I'm going to mix it with the green and just get like a little muted shadow tone and just add that at the base of some of these, just to add it to a little bit dark. Now this is still wet, so it's kind of blending out right away. If I let it dry and put this dark color down, it would show up a little bit darker. So I could always do that after it dries, but I like how this is coming out. Again, I'm going to bring it up so you could see the color more true. Okay, so we have pretty greens and yellows. Liz is saying the blue makes it look more organic. Yeah, I agree. Because if you look at leaves in nature, they're not just solid one tone. There are so many color variations. Okay, this is the part that goes with my little bud. So I'm just going to, let's go dark. Let's load it up with green. I think that'll look nice. And then we'll do a little bit of both here like we did on the large leaves. Get some yellow in here. Mix it all up. And as I paint, I'm kind of like, let's see if this is the surface, I'm kind of like tapping the brush. You know, there's like a lot of different techniques you can use, but if I'm doing something that's intended to be imprecise, like I'm just putting color in places, I like to tap the brush because it allows the brush to make some decisions for me. The shape of the brush does some of the work. Like if I wanted to be really precise, I'd hold my brush down lower and I'd use the tip. These nice round brushes come down to a beautiful tip, right? I would take the tip and I would do tiny little strokes. I would make sure this was dry. If I wanted to be precise, I'd be doing wet on dry. Here, let me show you here. Okay. So grab some paint on my brush, use the tip, hold it nice and low so I have nice control. And I could be extremely precise. I'll show you what I'm doing here. Okay. Focus. There we go. Okay, so you could see I've got tiny little strokes that I can make. Okay, so there's a lot of precision that you can do with a nice large round brush, but that's not what I want here. I just want color to move around. So that's why I'm kind of bouncing it like I showed you earlier. So let me show you one more time. I'm gonna get some colors, and I don't care that these are all mixing. If I accidentally grab some red when I thought I was grabbing green, that's fine. That area is just gonna have a little bit of red in it. And I'm just hopping along, like stippling, I guess, hopping it on the brush. This I want to get a little bit darker, so let's get into some of that blue and add some blue, and that's going to darken it up right at the bottom. Love that. And now get some of that purpley reddish green and come back to where I wanted those dark colors here. Because now this is a little more dry, and you can see as I place down my brush, it's not automatically blending. It's allowing me to add that more intense color and control more where it goes. Okay, so we're doing all the things, all the techniques in one. I like how that looks. If you ever wanted to blend that in, if you're like, oh, that was too crisp, just take some water on your brush and blend it out with some water. Okay, now that's no longer a harsh line. This one is no longer a harsh line. Okay, I did want the harsh lines though, so I'm going to keep those other ones. I hope all of this is making sense, and I hope that someone's learning something from it, and you're not all like, Jen, we're like professional watercolors. So you don't have to teach us anything. Okay, now I'm looking to see how this is coming together. Oh, that is beautiful. So cute. And then this one here. Okay, so let's do this. I'm going to cut out the other ones. These are still drying, so we're going to let them dry and do their thing over here. I'm going to set aside my paint for now. I might come back into it later. You never know. Because if this challenge is all about tags, I better get a tag going, right? It's 4:56 and I spent a lot of time chatting and not making a tag. So let's make our flowers out of this. I think it's pretty dry now. We'll compare the two techniques. We'll cut out a tag, and then the rest I will be finishing offline. Remember, this one is the one we see the most of. So I'm going to pick my favorite area. I like this, where there's orange, yellow, and red. I will have to trim this down to go into the mini blossom. This part I want to be where it's lighter, right there. The center I would like to be here where it's nice and dark. And then my greenery living down here. And then this part, I want half yellow, half red. Okay. So let's add some new tape. I had to throw out that old tape. You had a good run with that tape. Kathy's saying the watercolor terrifies her. I just got my watercolors out and I'm making my tag with them. Yes, that's what I love to hear. I am frequently doing things that make me uncomfortable on these lives, and that is the point. I have had many successes where I'm like so proud of myself. I'm like, I can't believe I made that. That was something I would have never done before, and here I am doing it and loving it. I'm actually going to grab some of this edge. I like how the crisp edge is shown there. So let's put that piece here. And then there are some duds I've created. And if you go back in some of the older lives, maybe you'll find some of the duds where I'm just like, no, that wasn't it. I tried it and I don't like it. And that's okay too. So I'm going to just take my scissor and give this a little trim here. Hoping this fits through on the plate and I don't have to cut it down again. Oh, of course it doesn't. Okay, let's move this over a little bit just so I can get it all to fit. I know I'm going over a little bit because it's already 4:59 and I'm not going to be ready in the next minute, but I hope you don't mind. Now, just a little bit of important information, especially if you missed it in the beginning. In order to play along, you need to create a tag or a set of tags, something with a tag, and make sure that when you post it, you're using our hashtag, which is hashtag Altenew Challenge Live. That's how I'm going to be able to find it. And then come back next week on Tuesday at 4 o'clock Eastern time. So do the time zone math if you have to. And then you'll be able to find out who is the winner of the challenge. Oh, I love that. Getting to see the little edge where it's white. There we go. Focus. There we go. Love that. Okay, so put that one here. And these are still a little bit damp, so I do want to be careful with them. You know, I was talking about how this tape, the satin masking tape, doesn't adhere to most papers and it won't rip it. However, if your cardstock or your watercolor paper is wet, it is in like a fragile state. So you don't really want to be doing harsh things to it when it's in a fragile state. So in that case, you just want to be slower when you peel off your tape, maybe peel at an angle, all the little tricks to help it out. Okay, now let's cut out our greenery and we're going to compare our flowers. I don't even think I'm going to get to cut out the tag itself today, and that's fine because that'll give you something to look forward to for next time. I feel like every live challenge has a to be continued. That should be at the end of it, right? Like if you're watching a show and you get a cliffhanger and it's to be continued and you can't wait till the next one, you have to wait a whole week because back in the day, we didn't binge shows like we do now. You literally had to wait till the next week to be able to watch what happens next. That's what we've got going on here. If you want to see this final project, you've got to come back to the next live, either while we're live or on the replay. I'm excited to see how the leaves came out. That's beautiful. That's so pretty. And both methods I really love. I also love I've got extra here that I can use to cut out other elements later. Like, you got to hold on to this stuff because that's really great to use for more tiny die cuts in the future. Let's separate the dies. Let's clean up a little bit here so we can see what we're working with. I'll move my die cut supplies. So yeah, today we did a lot of watercoloring, talking about different techniques. Hopefully you guys learned some tips along the way. I love watercoloring. I've been watercoloring for so long, and going from someone who used to watercolor like art pieces to now doing cool things like watercoloring die cuts and mixing different types of products like watercoloring with stamping or something else. It's really fun. I feel like it opens up so many more possibilities. So let's line this one up. Pretty. And pop this here. I will adhere them later. Love that. Put the little bottom on right here. Okay, stay. And here are the little leaves. I might like this set better. Try to get rid of some of the glare. Okay, so that's the set we did painting first, then die cutting. And then this one was the one I said you got more control over. So I got to control where I wanted all of my colors to be on each of these petals. Scoop this up. Okay, guys, these pieces just keep moving where I don't want them to be. Okay. Here are the other set. What are your preference? What do you like better? Okay, so this was, get the shading so you could see. All right, so this was die cutting first, painting after. This was painting first, die cutting after. This was what I wanted to do the whole time, and I think I like this one more. You never know. I'm probably going to put them both on the tag. And I like how there's different color tones. I definitely went more into cool here with like the purples, adding those in, and a lot warmer up here using the oranges. I used the same reds and pinks in each one, but combining it with yellow versus combining it with the blue and the purple, it really made it cool versus warm. And you can see the same thing happen in the leaves. So my leaves here have a cooler tone, and my leaves up here have a warmer tone. So my homework is going to be selecting one of these tags, I think the big one, and finding a way to arrange these flowers on here in a beautiful way, adding on some kind of greeting, and I will be sharing that final project with you next week. Okay, let's flip you around and I can do a proper goodbye. I know I missed a lot of comments. I always do. I have to go back and check them out after the replay gets posted, just because I know I always miss a whole bunch. So if I missed your comment, hopefully Jelly got it. And thank you to Jelly for being behind the scenes with me today and popping in links and answering questions and all of that. I love seeing and hearing your opinions as I create, and you guys always help encourage me as I go along. And I hope that you found something encouraging that I did that might help you in your crafting. So for next week, make sure you create a tag and use the hashtag Altenew Challenge Live. And we're going to be picking someone new to win next week who's going to get a $15 gift certificate to the Altenew store. I think Jelly already, like 5 minutes ago, 6 minutes ago, because I'm already over time, a while ago already posted the winner. I didn't see their name, but I think I saw it pop up. So just double check and see if you're the winner of that out of the people who have shared our live today. And that will just about do it for me today. So for the dramatic conclusion to tag You're It, my project for today, please tune in next week on Tuesday at 4 o'clock Eastern time. And that's it. It's always great seeing you guys, and I hope you all have a wonderful and crafty day. Bye-bye. I got to do the outro. There we go.